D&D is great at a lot of things. You want a sort of classic fantasy adventure? Boom. You want a slightly goofy fantasy adventure? Boom. You want most of your combat to be simple, but also most of your mechanics to be combat-oriented? Boom. But what if you want to play a modern game, or a sci-fi game, or a horror game, or a game where the mechanics are more open-ended, or a game where the mechanics are more complicated? Because those games exist. Here's a bunch of them. Also, this video is sponsored by StartPlaying Games, and I'm going to be using their website throughout the video to see if we can find games for people to play these TTRPGs that they haven't tried before. Because the best way to learn a game is to play it, and if StartPlaying doesn't have it, I'm not doing research to check beforehand, so it'll make them look good or bad. We'll see. Oh god, I hope this is a good idea. You want to go with guns, but like a cowboy, but also like there's monsters and maybe ghosts and maybe curses and maybe demons? Deadlands, friends. Can we find a Deadlands game? Who's to say? I bet, well, I should spell it right. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's a handful of them. But what if you really like cowboys, but you want to go further in time, but also you want to be the monsters, and also you want to kill Nazis? Eat the Reich! In this game, you literally play as a vampire commando launched into France with the singular goal of drinking Hitler's blood and killing everything on the way. Go. Enjoy. Are we gonna get to play this game where we get to be a vampire that fights Nazis? Yes! We've got a couple. Ooh, this one is a 2-session mini-campaign literally to teach us how to play. Let's go! Okay, but what if we want to go further into the future, but we don't want guns, and we don't want monsters, or at least we don't want to be monsters. We want to be kids, and we want to feel like we're in an 80s movie. Then we should probably play Kids on Bikes. It kinda is gonna sit somewhere between Stand By Me, The Goonies, and Stranger Things, depending on the way the game goes. And if you're like, man, I really like all of that, but I wish it was magical, well, guess what? There's also Kids on Brooms. Bam, bam, bam. And it's like Harry Potter, but with a less problematic author. Let's go! I will also say that this is the only game I have ever played that has brought me close to tears at the table. Why? Because I get very sensitive about people's relationships with their parents, and that comes up a lot in games when you're a kid just trying to make it. Leave me alone! And now, the moment of truth. We got Kids on Bikes. Oh, they got Kids on Brooms too. Did not actually expect them to have Kids on Brooms. Oh, and there's a lot of Kids on Bikes games. Let's go. All right, Kids on Bikes, 1 million. Kids on Brooms, is it available? Oh, Kids on Brooms, quite a few games as well. Okay, so if you like your kids with magic or bikes, you got both options available. If you want to stay in the teenager world but move up in the timeline world and also try a game that is fundamentally different than any TTRPG I have ever played, you should check out Alice is Missing. In this game, you play as a group of teenagers that are trying to find their missing friend Alice. But here's where it gets tricky. You do not talk. This is a silent game. The only way you communicate with the other players are through text messages and group chats. This is an experience. And even though that's a pretty weird gimmick, it's a popular game as far as I know, so I bet we're gonna find at least a couple. Yeah, look at that. Look at all these people offering to run some Alice is Missing. Don't you want to find your friend? Another thing that D&D is not great at, but is so much fun when it can be great, is superpowers. Sure, everyone in D&D kind of is a superhero, but you can't do a lot of the superpowers of superheroes. But you know what you can do it in? Mutants and Masterminds, which is a very fun game with a complicated character building system, but once you actually have your character, it's very smooth sailing. And that system is so complicated because it allows for you to do crazy things. For example, one time I built a character that was a ghost that could turn into a big bear monster and possess electronics, which is a lot, but was doable. And if you're like, man, I love superhero stuff, you know what I hate? Complicated character builders, then you should go in the opposite direction and try out this game called Masks. Making characters in Masks is both simple and open-ended because it uses playbooks that give you access to these powers that are very broad and often just tell you to interpret how you will. Now, I know Mutants and Masterminds is medium popular. It's a little older. I'm curious. But yeah, pretty popular game. Here's a handful of options for us to do things with here. Bunch of stuff to try. Now, masks. That's one that I'm actually not sure if we're going to see things for, because I don't see a lot of Oh, never mind. There's more masks options than there are mutants and masterminds. Okie dokie, artichoke. Do you wish you had an RPG that was the literal manifestation of a doom metal album as a game? Because that's Morkborg. That's all you need to know. It's doom metal, the game. Now the question is, do they have the album in stock? Morkborg? Did I spell it wrong? Morg? How do I spell it? Morkborg. Maybe you don't have it. I didn't spell it wrong. You have to put it with the little umlaut. That's going to be tricky, man. People might think the game is not available, but it is. Here's a handful of Morkborg games going on right now. The umlaut got me. Watch your umlaut start playing. Sure, it's accurate, but people are gonna miss it. And if you want the exact opposite of Morkborg, like cottagecore, Redwall, you're a cute little mouse running through a meadow, it's called Mouse Ritter. It's adorable. It's also a game where your inventory system is sort of like inventory in Resident Evil, where you have different spacing depending on what you're carrying, and it's cute and awesome. Gonna be honest, I have no idea how popular this game is. My friend had me play it one time. It looks like they do have it at Start Playing Games. Now, do they have it though? Yes, they do. All right, we got some Mouse Ritter. Do you want games that are a little bit more modern day and spooky, but where you don't have that much power and you're kind of trying to figure things out? And if you're like, man, I'm so tired of this Lovecraft stuff. I want to get into some like Appalachian American mythology horror. Well, the Old Gods of Appalachia have you covered. And Old Gods of Appalachia, fun fact, also a really good podcast. Old Gods. Old Gods of Appalachia. Yeah, it's on here too. All right, start playing. You know, but maybe you're one of those people that really likes a movie or a book or something, and you want to play a game that takes place in that world. You want your TTRPGs to be inspired by the fiction that you love. Well, guess what? There's a bunch of them that do that. For example, you like Aliens? There's an Alien RPG. You like Game of Thrones? And there's a Song of Ice and Fire RPG. You like Avatar? There's an Avatar RPG. Buffy the Vampire Slayer? You got it. Lord of the Rings? The One Ring. Doctor Who? Doctor Who. There's also Dune, a Ghostbusters, a G.I. Joe, Pokemon, Power Rangers, Star Trek, Star Wars, there's a Zelda one, and there's probably more. Those are just the ones I could find. How many of these are we gonna find on Start Playing? We got Alien RPG. Oh yeah, a bunch. Song of Ice and Fire. A couple. Avatar. A bunch. How about Buffy? Oh, you don't have the Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG. All right. The One Ring. Yep. Ooh, a bunch of the One Ring. Doctor Who. Couple Doctor Who games. Dune. Oh yeah. Ghostbusters. Nope, no Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Not the Ghostbusters. How about G.I. Joe? Couple G.I. Joe games. Actually, this one's Transformers disguising as G.I. Joe. How about Pokemon? Oh, there's a couple. Let's try the role-playing game. Yeah, we got a couple role-playing Pokemon games. Gotta catch them all. Power Rangers. Yeah, I knew there'd be at least a couple of these. Everybody wants to be a Power Ranger. If anybody tells you they don't want to be a Power Ranger, they're a liar and a fool. Star Trek. Oh, yeah. How about Star Wars? So there's like a billion ways you could play Star Wars. Okay, those are a bunch of TTRPGs that I have tried. Ding, 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 correction. I did not play all of those RPGs. I did not play the crazy list of RPGs based off movies and TV shows and stuff I just read off. They're just the other ones. Sorry. That I think do things very well that D&D might not be the best game for. You should always be looking for new games to see what's out there. It's fun to try new stuff. The more new games you learn, the more you start to understand what you need in a game. If there's something that I should have talked about here that I didn't, a game that I need to try, something that I just whooshed right over my head, please let me know in the comments. And also, Start Playing, thanks again for sponsoring the video. I hope you don't mind that I kind of just dove in to see if you had games available without doing much research first. But you did pretty good. You had almost all of them. No Ghostbusters RPG, but, you know, hopefully somebody out there is gonna right that wrong.